Okay, we're getting into hair now. And hair, the structure of hair, it looks very complicated because there are so many hairs here. We're going to ignore some of these hairs here, some of the epithelial cells that go around the hair. Hair is an epidermal structure. It's derived from the epidermis. It's going to be made of keratin, just like these keratinized cells out here. But here we have that, these are keratinocytes. These are keratinized stratified squamous epithelium, right? And we have these epidermal cells that are going to go and they're going to surround this hair. This is the hair follicle on the outside of the hair. So here in pink here, we have these epithelial cells going around here. These are all epithelial cells going around the hair. And so those are the keratinocytes, and they're just, those epithelial cells just go right around, and we call these the external epithelial root sheath and the internal epithelial root sheath. Don't worry about these. And this glassy membrane right here, this is just going to be just a basement membrane, because we're going to have the epithelial cells here, and we're going to have connective tissue on the outside, just as we would expect, because out here we have connective tissue out here. So we have our connective tissue sheath around our hair, and we have our subcutaneous adipose tissue, just as we would expect. There's always going to be adipose tissue down here. So this is all some normal stuff we would see around a hair. Don't want you to get bogged down with all those details. But here's our hair. See our hair in here? I want you to focus just on the hair itself and what the hair is made of. So if we look at our hair is made of, if we look down here at the bottom, here's, I guess our starting point would be the papilla. And so this region down here, the papilla, this is all connective tissue down here in the papilla. But this region is where we're going to get our nutrition, because we've got down here in the papilla, we would have our blood vessels and nutrition coming in here. So the papilla is an important region. Up here in a region called the hair matrix, this is where all hair growth is going to originate. These little cells are going to undergo mitosis, and hair growth will be important, because this is where it's going to originate from, right here from the hair matrix. These are our mitotic cells here, and hair is going to grow upward from there. Now here in the medulla, these little yellow cells right here, the cells aren't so tightly packed here, but in the medulla there might be some air in here, but that's the middle of the hair. On the outside we have our cortical cells, the cortex. So here we have the hair cortex here. Then the cortex would be the region where your hair color is deposited, and the hair color is going to come from these cells right here, our melanocytes. So here are where your melanocytes are located in your hair. So if you have dark brown hair, these melanocytes are putting that dark brown dark brown pigment, in these cortical cells, and then those cortical cells are being pushed up and up and up, because all that hair growth is coming from this matrix around here. And so those cells are just being pushed up and up and up, and out your brown hair goes, or your blonde hair, or your black hair, or your red hair. If you have red hair, another pigment is being deposited in your hair called trichosiderin. So that's a little more complex, but that's where that hair color is coming from. So hair color is going to be deposited in the cortex, and then you have your outer cuticle. The outer cuticle cells are these cells out here in this lighter color, and the cuticle cells are full of a hard keratin. All these cells are going to have a harder keratin in them than these outer epidermal cells here, and these cells up here in your epidermis. The epidermis, these keratinocytes that have the keratin in them, have a keratin that's called soft keratin. Your fingernails and your hair will have a keratin in them that's called hard keratin, and that hard keratin is harder than soft keratin. That's why it's called hard keratin. And so that's better, because then we don't want these cells of your hair to flake off, these cells right here to flake off, and it just makes them much stronger. So we've got hard keratin as opposed to soft keratin in here. Now these cells of the hair are different. If we're talking about the the hair on your head, the hairs on your head are going to be different than the hairs on your body. Hairs on the bodies of females and children are much softer, if you'll notice, than the hairs on men. The hairs on females and children are called vellus hairs on their body. They're called vellus hairs. Where on men, body hair is called terminal hair. It's much more coarse. It's called terminal hair. On women, we only have terminal hair on our eyebrows and our hair, like the hair on our heads. But vellus hair is much in some genital regions, and maybe like the axillary regions. But terminal hair is only found on our eyebrows and our hair. Everywhere else it's vellus, much more softer than males, where their whole body is covered with terminal hair. So there's a difference between vellus hair and terminal hair. Another thing I want to point out is that sometimes you will see a woman with terminal hair, maybe on her face like a mustache. That's usually because she has a disorder of her adrenal glands. If a woman has a beard, it's called hirsutism. Hirsutism is excessive hairiness. Remember to look at all of the homeostatic imbalances in your book. When we lose our hair prematurely, it can be for a variety of reasons, but just the general term for baldness is alopecia, losing hair, whether you're a female or a male. If it's genetically determined, it's called male pattern baldness in men, but there is female pattern baldness as well. There are lots of different reasons for losing your hair. So make sure you look into the homeostatic imbalances. Now here's just another picture. You can see the medulla cells are a little more fluffy in here. The cortical cells are a little more tightly packed. Remember, we have our erector pili muscle to pull our hair up. Here's our nail. Our fingernails are also made of hard keratin. I don't want you to know every single part of your nail, but the eponychium is our cuticle. And deep to the eponychium, if you see the white part of the nail, it's the lunule, and the lunule is it's the moon of your nail. And what you're seeing here is the part deep to the lunule is the nail matrix, and the nail matrix is the region of the cell that the nail grows from, the region of the nail the region of the nail where the nail grows from. So you're seeing that region where the nail is growing from. And if you damage the nail in this area, that damaged area is going to grow out with the nail. The hyponychium is the region under this free edge of the nail. So the hyponychium would be underneath here. And that's about it for your fingernail. The fingernail is just made of hard keratin, and it's a derivative of the epidermis. It's not a bone or anything like that. Here's the bone. Here's your finger bone. It's called a phalanx. Phalanges for plural, phalanx for singular. I think that's about it I want to point out from here. We'll do skin cancer in the next lecture.